Jacob Collier is one of the most talented musicians of our generation, and today we're breaking down a few different sounds from his music in his latest album, Jesse Volume 4. First type of sound we're going to make is a funky bass line. You hear this all over Jacob Collier's catalogue, and this one is the bass sound from Mi Corazon. Start with a square wave, add a lower octave to make the sound a bit deeper. That sounds nothing like our bass sound, so we're going to add envelope 2 to the filter. That sounds a little bit too dry, so we're going to add a chorus. And this is going to make our bass sound a bit wider. We can adjust the width down here where it says spread. And to make our bass sound funky, make it play one note at a time and add some glide. That's still not quite there, so I'm going to adjust the tone of oscillator 1 to be in a pulse wave. And another way you can make it a pulse is by pressing none and then going to oscillator pulse width. Now let's break down the notes, because there's a few things that make this bass sound a bit funky, and Jacob Collier does this all over his albums to make his bass sounds funky. First thing is the notes are off the grid. Jacob Collier with his music, he likes to break the rules a little bit and come off the grid with his rhythms, as we're seeing here, and secondly with his melodies. A lot of his harmonies and melodies are a bit macrotonal, so that's coming off the grid from a pitch standpoint, but we can also come off the grid from a rhythmic standpoint. And to do this, all you need to do is make sure some of the notes are a bit late coming in, especially these notes here. Thing number 2 that makes this funky is the bass notes are really short. Here's a comparison of just adjusting the note length. I'm going to make this really long so you can hear what's going on. It doesn't really sound that funky, but we make it shorter, it's more percussive, and those note lengths that creates the bounce that we're looking for our bass line. And Jacob Collier uses another type of bass in this song, a sub bass, and they're quite difficult to make if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to show you how to break down a good sub bass like he does in this song, really simply. You're going to start with a sine wave, but you can't really hear that on your phone or small speakers, so we're going to add some extra harmonics. So this is the fundamental called number 1. Number 2, slider number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Each one of these sliders are called harmonics, and because we're using the odd numbers, these are called odd harmonics. And if you look at our square shape that we used on our bass sound from earlier, those are using odd harmonics at an even level, but we want to create a sub bass, so we're going to use odd harmonics, but just the first few. This is like a basic sub bass template that you can use throughout your music. To make it cut through even more, we're going to add some extra harmonics again by using some saturation. For this, I'm using a dirty filter in Vital because it adds a lot of distortion to your sound, but you can also use any other harmonic saturator that you have in your software. Then we're going to assign notes to drive, and this is going to make the high notes on our keyboard get a bit more saturation, and I think it sounds a bit closer to the original like this. Here's before and after. And the final tip for this bass sound is setting it to legato. If we don't do this, the notes are going to click between each other. But then with legato, it's a smoother transition. And of course, that adds some glide, so the pitch has a nice transition to the next note. If you want to download these 2 presets, they're available on my Patreon, so you can use these nice bass sounds in your music as well. And special shout out to Jacob Collier, he's one of my favorite musicians, always pushing the boundaries in music. So I really wanted to break down some of these sounds today, so you guys can have access to some of that sorcery.